and we will talk about what were our goals, what are our motivations, what tools did we use, and how did it actually turn out to be.
You want to add something?
No. Okay. So my idea was to make a game which is some kind of voyage or trip in a spiritual way for our players. To give them this some kind of mysticism related to the travel, hitchhiking pilgrimage itself, and we used magical medieval setting to have it in a simplest form without any distractions not intended from the modern world.
So our goal, how tacky and stupid it sounds, was really to create, to give the players a chance to have some kind of mystical or spiritual experience, which is, we know, very broadly defined for different people. So we choose a few types of mysticism that can appear there. There was the pilgrimage for people who believe in God and have some kind of religious grounding, different understood by different players. And there was the tribe, who had their tribal mythology and cult and their really strong social connection to each other. And we wanted to give this kind of mysticism too. And of course, a huge part that was seen there, there is also a part of mysticism that comes with the communion with nature, to interact with the real world. It also may be magical or mystical or however we call it. And these were our goals, to give people the chance to do this, and to also give the player a chance to reflection about what the religion means, what the journey means, what society gives or takes away from us. And also we wanted to do a little of the social experiment to see what kind of, for example, what kind of tribe will the people form, because they had a free hand of forming it, at least in our theory. And also, what will be the result of meeting this, these two groups, coming together. We will talk about this later.
Okay.
One of our ideas was to get this kind of experiences, which are sometimes extreme. We wanted to force the players, or to let them, to go outside of their comfort zone. We will talk about this later in our mechanics or other tools that we use, but this was the, we communicated discreetly that this is one of the things that we will want to allow.
Okay, so we actually started the project a few months later, before at June 2014. We started this Who's Who larp. It was actually a larp where the players were given only their names of the characters, and all the things they created was basic on their own experience. So they were forced to either choose what's the culture, what was the habits, what was the history of the society they were playing. What was really good and worked perfectly at the game was their role during the game, because they weren't settled who was the shaman, who was the leader, who was maybe the collectioner of mushrooms. They were just put into the forest, and we were watching what are they doing, what roles they were taking, and then we were giving them further informations who allowed them to participate more into their role. So this worked perfectly. Who's Who was thought to be a good LARP. It worked well, and what worked especially good was the feeling of society at the end of the second day of the LARP, when we woke up on our tents and we really feel that we're the part of one community. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, to clear up, this was a kind of prerequisite for creating the tribe, because the game was, there were two groups of players, the tribe and the pilgrimage. This was the foundations of creating the tribe. We wanted the players to actively chose what kind of tribe they are, what kind of religion they're gonna do, and stuff like that. And to do this, we put them in a dark forest away from culture with only a few tools left, and they had to survive and some kind create a group that works together in a little hostile but not too much environment.
So it was that this concept of
the me, in English we tribe, was developed further after the Huyu larp to the actual pilgrimage. It was developed during the via Facebook. We added some other layers to this tribe, and this was the starting condition for the tribe at the pilgrimage. And pilgrimage itself, started in the groups.
I will talk about the pilgrims because the tribe already had its, they grouped their ideas, their religion. The pilgrimage, for the players from the pilgrimage group, the characters were created, normally, I would say, in the communication between us and them. They gave us some ideas, we gave them some background and that. There are, I believe, 3 distinctive parts. One was that we created the normal characters, but one rule was that they were created and designed in such a way that they shouldn't be, psychopaths, killers, and people who want to intentionally harm each other, because of the mechanics we use in this game that we'll talk about later. And secondly, for the pilgrimage, it was important for the people because there's a group of rejects who just leave the society behind. We playing in some kind of Middle Ages, so they're like the ship of fools. They were leaving the all-known civilization world behind, get on a ship and fly swim to an island that doesn't know, that they don't really know if it exists at all. And they're pretty sure they're never coming back. So they had to create characters which had reasons for this kind of trip, who had reflections, who had morality and spirituality. All of the characters were given excerpts from different philosophical backgrounds of how to think about religion. Well, the most free thinkers were given Soren Kierkegaard parts of writings, the more mystical ones were given Anthony de Mello's short stories. So we used actual mystical texts that exist in our culture, just a little, we try to use them to this world. And some of them had real Middle-aged philosophy from the Middle Ages, like scholasticism.
Okay, well, I will try to say something about that. During the creation of the characters and the tribe, the main game, we chosen a little different mechanic that we used during the first LARP. We actually created the characters. We created. They actually told us the name, and we based some history between them. We made some relations between them. So this was the other way around than we used to do it, because this was not only names, but the whole character with this whole background. What we decided not to prescribe before the game was its role and the position in the tribe, except a few characters like the shaman, who was really important for us due to the game mechanic. Most of the characters, again, was set a role during the game.
In a few words, game was started the Friday at 5 p.m. for the tribe. They have this initial part in which they are dividing roles among themselves. And later at Friday there was a workshop for the pilgrims, which was led by group.
So when the tribe was setting the camp and setting the roles between each other, the people from the pilgrimage group had a different kind of workshop. Together with the players, we decided that we're going to do a short LARP that we will play continuously, but they will be given scenes moderated that have to appear there. So they have to, face some challenges to know who they really are. The purpose of this game, and I communicated it really clearly, wasn't to create some kind of plots, groups, and things between people. The main role of this workshop was for each player to know who he is and why he's doing this. I know it's quite stupid, but there were one of the scenes was the moment when they got on the ship. They were leaving everything behind. So I told them to go out to the dark. Everyone is alone. They have to wait for 5 minutes, not to see and not to hear and not to talk with anyone, and really think what someone feels, what happens in the mind of a person who leaves everything behind. And the whole workshop was to simulate their trip on the ship until it crashed. To know, but the focus was placed for them to know themselves, not to know each other. This is important part.
So we need to hurry a bit. So long story short, at Saturday morning, second group of pilgrims started. They were thrown out the sea, as you saw on the movie. They spent some time building the campfire. About first PM, they made a connection with the tribe. They exchanged some information, some political view. At the end of the day, they chose to form one camp, and LARP ended at Sunday about 10 a.m. when our players decided to go into the mainland of this island or something. Okay, so we made evaluation of this game based on our observation and players' feedback. So, first of all, scenery. Well, in almost all cases, players said that it was great, and we personally feel that it was nice. As a minority call, we have one opinion that there was some disturbance from tourists and people who are not playing the LARP was on a level which is interfering with the game. But most opinions says that those were invisible or not interfering. So basically, we will in the future make this with the same assumptions. We try and make a more focus on the props for the LARP. Action dynamics. Well, this LARP doesn't have the dynamics. This going of this LARP when they met, there was not much more happened during this time. It was spent on some discussing, questioning what they see, and so on. And it was about, I think it was a bit risky for us because we tried to communicate this area of LARP to players that is not an adventure LARP. Still, we had one opinion that, which was something I think related to miscommunication, that the lack of adventure layer was a problem. But again, great majority of players said that the speed of action was realistic and was good. About survival level or layer of this LARP, we have a whole spectrum of opinions, from opinions that it was too harsh and the area of the LARP was too large, to that this whole layer was too easy, there were too many food, too many things, too many tools. Most often occurring remark is that there were too much food, so there will be less on the next on the next edition, without significant changes to the other layer. How is it come? Gameplay. For the pilgrims, we have very good opinions of the game. We were about scared during the LARP because there were many, sometimes just sitting and talking, and we do not know if they are boring or are they actually playing. But we have feedback something like this was a LARP which was taking place in the head, and most significant remark was, well, I thought something about this LARP during this LARP, and I will move to Canada. Okay, we think that we made a mistake with the character creation process for the tribe. we lost added value from the workshop LARP Huyu, which was taking place 2 months before the game. Most of players who was on Huyu was from some reasons not taking part in pilgrimage, so there was no additional value from this culture which was created by the players. So about half of players said that they had a good play, but it was related not from our purpose. So this feeling of community, more it was just they were just playing their plots. So we think that the tribe will need to be redesigned, and it will be. In our next edition, tribe will be done in the way it was done in Huyu. So there will be just players starting with their motivation, their name, and assumption that they will need to try to make a society in which they would like to live. Okay, this is important part.
Okay, then now comes the mechanics, because in the communication about the LARP, we let Kamil speak on the last Kola conference, and he focused on the mechanics, that in this game we used no mechanics at all. Everything had to be done actually. So if you want to actually hit someone, you have to hit someone. If you want to actually take drugs, you actually take drugs. If you want to have sex with someone, you have sex with someone. All of these things happened during the LARP, but this was only the tool. Yeah, the idea, because there was a lot of discussion about this LARP and this mechanics used. This is only a tool. We wanted to create a situation as real as possible for the people to have real experiences. But our main goal wasn't to have the experience to be fighting with someone or having sex with someone, because we can have these experiences outside of LARPs easily. But the idea was for the mystical thing and the pilgrimage itself. That's why we use the name. Happens in the head. When someone goes to a business trip and crosses some roads, you may see the same trees, the same churches, the same streets, the same people, and he will have no spiritual experience at all. And a person who goes there with a spiritual idea in mind, in the sense of adventure, he sees a different world. So our idea was not to create some strange different worlds, some goblins and gods and some plots happening outside of the world. We wanted to create the state of mind in people, so normal things like creating a fire, going for the water, looking for shelter, surviving a crash, these things, we wanted them to interpret it and to live it like it had some spiritual meaning. And I believe the main success of this game was that, at least for a few players, it really happened. So we were happy that it did, because it wasn't obvious that it will appear. And we're planning a rerun with some changes coming from the evaluation we got. It's the place and the date, you can see it there, so we're waiting for it.
Okay, so are there any questions?
Okay, I have a question regarding, I think everybody's asking the same in their minds about the sex. In the sense, yeah, come on. In the sense that it was real sex, or they were faking it? In the sense, real. Okay, it was only that, because it will that.
It was consensual.
No.
Yeah.
No, because only it's great, I think. But the only problem is that it will let some people out of it, in the sense that
But
people.
you weren't forced to have sex with anyone.
No. I started saying that it's great. Okay, so I have no problem with that. It's only a small bad thing, but really interesting that you were doing it.
So I think generally, because these assumptions were quite clearly communicated, so players who went to this lab knew what are the assumptions. Yeah, sex was, I think, not most important, because it was not public, so there were people which having the sex, but they were not seen. I think that real violence is kind of more controversial. There was major role of nudity, because part of the pilgrims started naked in the sea. Of course, they are not on a movie. And we have a scarification during the larp, but it was not repeated at pilgrimage. Oh, and we had some usage of psychoactive substances, which, as far as we have the opinions from tests, worked well too. They were haunted by the ghosts that we invented.